Mayonnaise, a sauce that seems very familiar, appears in countless everyday dishes. From salads and sandwiches to popular fast foods around the world, this smooth, creamy sauce with its signature mild tang has become a familiar part of modern cuisine. At first glance, the recipe for mayonnaise seems quite simple: vegetable oil, vinegar, or lemon juice, and egg yolk. But behind that simplicity lies a carefully controlled emulsification process. To achieve that smooth, uniform texture on an industrial scale, manufacturers must precisely control every stage of production, from raw ingredients to mixing, emulsification, quality inspection, and packaging. In this video, we will explore the mayonnaise production process to see how such a familiar sauce is made in the modern food industry. Mayonnaise is commonly believed to originate from French cuisine. However, it was not until the early 20th century that it truly took off and became a widely available product through commercial production. One of the names closely associated with this development is Richard Hellman in New York. At his small delicatessen, his family served salads mixed with their homemade mayonnaise. The flavor quickly became popular, demand grew rapidly, and mayonnaise soon began to be produced on a much larger scale. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration (FDA) standard of identity, mayonnaise must contain at least 65% vegetable oil by weight to ensure the product's characteristic structure and flavor. Thanks to this standardization, mayonnaise has evolved beyond the home kitchen to become part of a global food industry. Recent market reports estimate the global mayonnaise market to be worth approximately $13 to $15 billion in 2024, with continued growth expected in the coming years, driven largely by demand from fast food chains and processed foods. Among all the ingredients that make up mayonnaise, egg yolk is the key component. Inside that small yolk is lecithin, a natural emulsifier. Thanks to this compound, oil and water, which normally separate from one another, can bind together to form a smooth, stable, creamy structure. This is the secret behind the distinctive texture of mayonnaise. But to supply a consistent source of eggs for the food industry, everything begins at large-scale poultry farms. In modern facilities, the production process is almost entirely automated. For example, on an area of roughly 0.4 hectares, a housing system can accommodate around 20,000 to 22,000 laying hens. Each day, this flock can produce approximately 20,000 eggs. With that volume of eggs, the food processing industry can manufacture an estimated nearly 10,000 jars of mayonnaise, depending on the recipe and product size. Early in the morning, when the hens begin laying, the eggs gently roll onto collection trays beneath the cages. From there, a conveyor system automatically transports the eggs out of the housing area. Robotic arms using light vacuum suction technology carefully lift each egg and place it into transport trays. Within a short time, thousands of eggs are gathered and sent directly to the processing plant. After being collected from the farm, the eggs enter the initial processing stage before joining the mayonnaise production line. First, all the eggs are thoroughly cleaned. They are washed with water, and the shells are then exposed to ultraviolet light to reduce the number of microorganisms on the surface. This is a particularly important step, helping to minimize the risk of cross-contamination and protect the purity of the yolk before mixing. Because mayonnaise primarily uses egg yolks, the egg whites must be separated using specialized egg separation machines. Each egg is fed into the system and cracked open over a small funnel, where the yolk and white are separated while the shell is discarded. The yolks are then collected through funnels and directed into a dedicated storage tank. At an industrial scale, this entire process operates at very high speed. A specialized separator can process around 280 eggs in just 10 seconds. Once collected, the yolks are pumped into large storage tanks with a capacity of approximately 10,000 liters. After being separated and collected, the egg yolks are pumped into large storage tanks, each capable of holding up to about 6 tons of raw material. At this stage, the yolks are first gently heated and mixed with salt. In some processes, manufacturers also add enzymes to improve the emulsifying properties and help stabilize the mixture before it moves on to the next stages. The liquid egg mixture then passes through pasteurization, a particularly important step in food production. This process helps reduce harmful microorganisms, especially salmonella, thereby improving food safety and extending the shelf life of the liquid egg ingredient. In the food industry, pasteurized liquid eggs are commonly preferred because they are safer, easier to store, and help ensure greater consistency across production batches. Along with eggs, soybean oil is the second primary ingredient in mayonnaise production. At the factory, this oil is typically transported in large sealed tanker trucks, then pumped into storage tanks before entering the production line. However, to create mayonnaise, oil and egg yolks alone are not enough. Another essential component is food-grade acid, usually in the form of vinegar or lemon juice. This ingredient not only provides the characteristic tangy flavor, but also helps adjust the pH level, stabilize the emulsion, and improve the product's microbiological safety. In addition, the formulation includes soft water, mustard powder, salt, and sugar. Each ingredient serves a specific function. Salt and sugar balance the flavor, while mustard contributes a mild aroma and also supports the emulsification process, helping oil and water bind together instead of separating. Finally, all the ingredients are fed into the factory's mixing system. Here, each component is precisely measured and carefully controlled to ensure that every batch of mayonnaise meets consistent quality standards. Throughout this process, the mixture is continuously stirred so the ingredients can blend together. But there is one critical detail. The oil is not added all at once. Instead, it is pumped in slowly, in a very thin and steady stream. Why is this step so important? Because at the microscopic level, mayonnaise is actually made up of billions of extremely tiny oil droplets dispersed in water. Lecithin in the egg yolk surrounds each droplet of oil, allowing them to spread evenly and preventing them from clumping together. When these factors are balanced correctly, a stable emulsion forms, creating the smooth, thick, creamy texture characteristic of mayonnaise. Once the emulsion structure has stabilized, vinegar is usually added in the final stage to complete the flavor and help inhibit bacterial growth. As a result, the finished mayonnaise achieves both an ideal creamy consistency and strong stability throughout its shelf life. In fact, commercial mayonnaise typically has a relatively low pH, around 3.6 to 4.0. This mild level of acidity plays an important role in suppressing microbial growth and maintaining the product's safety. Before being packaged, mayonnaise must undergo a series of strict quality control checks. First comes the sensory evaluation, where the product is assessed for its consistency, color, and flavor. Next, mayonnaise samples are sent to the laboratory for analysis of several important parameters, including fat content, moisture, salt levels, acidity, pH, flow behavior, viscosity, emulsion stability, and microbiological levels. Finally, all results are compared with the product's reference standard. This final verification step ensures that every batch of mayonnaise leaving the factory maintains consistent quality, stability, and safety, ready to reach consumers. After completing all quality control steps, the mayonnaise moves on to the packaging stage. The goal of this stage is not simply to place the product into containers, but also to prevent microbial recontamination, limit exposure to oxygen, and preserve the product's freshness, stability, and smooth, thick texture throughout its shelf life. In some modern processes, mixing or packaging may also be carried out in a protective gas environment, where the air is replaced with nitrogen or carbon dioxide. This method helps reduce oxidation and better protect the quality of the mayonnaise. Finished mayonnaise can be packaged in a variety of formats depending on its intended use. The most common types of packaging include glass jars, small square containers, single-serve packets, and plastic squeeze bottles. For products packaged in glass jars, the clean jars move onto an automated filling line. Here, mayonnaise is pumped into each jar with precise measurements. Sensors and dosing systems ensure that every jar contains nearly the same amount of product. A standard jar of mayonnaise typically contains about 24 ounces, equivalent to nearly 680 grams of product. Once filled, the jars are immediately sealed with metal lids, protecting the product from air and external microorganisms. They then move on to labeling, inspection, and boxing, preparing them for shipment to distribution centers. If you found this journey interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe to explore more fascinating production processes. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again in the next video.